Hello friends and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to, I'm actually going to continue on a build that I started several years ago and that is the explanation why the footage of this build might be lacking in some places because I hadn't anticipated making a YouTube series out of my builds at the point when I started this. So you have been warned. But I think there will be sufficient photos for a video, so you'll be the judge of that. But anyway, this is a build that is supposed to be from the Battle of Seelow Heights, a battle that was fought on the outskirts of Berlin in the middle of April 1945, where Soviet forces crashed through some of the last lines of defense before they reached the outskirts of Berlin. And the idea was to make a German sort of last line of defense and a mortar pit where things are going south rapidly and there are some reinforcements running past, there are some machine guns taking place, and it's supposed to be a scene of chaos. But before we continue, I would like to show you how I make another little detail that I've used on several of my builds, and that is the barbed wire that you can see in the front here. So I used two pieces of wire and I sort of weaved them together in a pattern like this. The idea here is that after you weave them, you can cut off these sort of, bendy bits. I'm sorry, English is my first language, you know that by now. And after you cut them off, you end up with this thing. And I think this could represent the look of barbed wire. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and I know it is way too big for this scale, but you have a pretty good starting point with this, and we're going to circle back to this later, where we're going to improve them. But this is my starting point when I make barbed wire. It takes some time, agreed, but it is efficient, and it looks the part, I think. The idea here was that the Germans have had some time to build their defenses and put up a defensive position, but not too much time. So I thought I would make a sort of trench that looks like it's been made of the materials they've been able to scavenge from the local area around them. So I'm going to put in some sandbags and some wooden logs, a barrel, some crates to all form a part of the trench. And although Tamiya is my favorite manufacturer of model kits, their sandbags, you can see them in the picture here, they don't look very natural. They look odd. They're not forming as they would be natural. But thankfully, there are products like Milliput where you can make your own. And as you can see, that's what I did here. I've had some Tamiya sandbags, which I've used as a foundation, and then I've added a lot of Milliput made sandbags on top. Milliput is the product where you match these two types of clay, in a lack of better words, mix them together, and after an hour or so, they are rock hard solid. I really recommend this. It's my go-to brand for making sandbags and other products that you can't easily find. For instance, the Milliput sandbags make it very easy to do things like this, where you look like strafing bullets have been hitting the sandbag and torn hole in them. And that's pretty hard to do in the Tamiya sandbags, you know, the small plastic ones. But with Milliput, you can form them in any way you like. And I'm very pleased with this. This was the first time I used Milliput, but I think the result is pretty good. And yes, now we come to the point of the video where I stop taking pictures. So sadly, there are no pictures of the rest of the build up until the point where I started finishing the base. So I've already painted and assembled the figures. So sorry about that, but we'll continue. Anyway, this is where I finished the base. I used my cardboard cutouts that I've trimmed to scale and then glued them on. And then I used this sort of putty where I filled in all the gaps and all the holes where I stapled them to the base, and now ready for painting. So this is the base as it stands as of now. Everything's painted, it's been glued on. I added a layer of sand on top of where I put the putty, and as you can see here, there are some pieces missing. I didn't complete the wall in the support wall in the back when I first built this kit. And I'm thinking about adding this thing. It's a tank trap and also some tank tracks. Just, to spice things up a bit and scatter them around maybe. Add them in this hole, Maybe a panther drove by at some point. And I'm going to use this wooden things to finish the wall. And I'm also going to add a casualty under this tarp. I made a video on tarps before. If you're interested, check that out. And we'll crack on. So I finished the walls and I added these planks. And as you can see, it's a bit of a rough job, but that was a point because I wanted this position, this defensive position, to look like it'd been made in a hurry. They had some time to repair the defenses, but it's not perfect anyway. It's still a makeshift job. And some planks are, well, they're just added on as a support later on when they found out, oh shit, this isn't going to work. And they just put things on as they saw fit. But now we're back to fixing the barbed wire that I showed you earlier. And what I'm using here is an aluminum mesh that's usually used to do bodywork on cars. But as you can see, it's quite easy to cut it with a scalpel. And after you do that, you get a pretty long strip with something that could be getting into focus, hopefully. And you see this thing, it looks like barbed wire. And if you just twist it around, let's say, your scalpel, you get a very round and a very nice shape, as you can see I'm doing here. And the best thing is that it sticks. You don't have to glue anything, so you can pull it off like that. And there you go. You have some barbed wire, and this is what I'm using it for. I use this and I integrate it as a part of the barbed wire that I've already made. And as you can see, it looks pretty good. When you paint this, it sort of blends in very nicely. And at least from a distance, it looks very believable. So I would highly recommend this technique, and I think it's a very, very nice substitute for buying something very expensive online at least. And with that, I'd like to present you with the final reveal. So that was my Seelow Heights diorama. To begin with, I wasn't very pleased with how this was looking, but when I finished it, I think it got a lot better, adding the new types of barbed wire and all the other details. I think this is a pretty respectable diorama, at least from my standard. I hope you agree. If you do, and if you liked the video, please give it a like. Consider subscribing. That would be very nice of you. And please feel free to give me feedback in the comments. I read every one of your comments, and they are very, very much appreciated. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you later.